Hi, freshmen. In this video, we're going to talk about PEA paragraphs and how you should write a PEA paragraph when you're given one as an assignment. So PEA stands for Point Evidence Analysis, and oftentimes you want to do a PEAEA. You want to add an extra E and an extra A at the end, and you can keep doing that as long as you want. But general rule is you want two pieces of evidence. So, what is a point? The point is you answering the question in one sentence at the very beginning. That's the P in PEA. So, you need to make sure that you're looking at the prompt because the prompt is going to tell you what you need to write about. Sometimes these prompts are going to ask you to identify literary terms and then discuss how those literary terms in a story or in a novel help us to understand the theme or the message of that story or novel. Sometimes it's going to ask you to express your opinion on something, and whether that's with evidence or without evidence. Those are kind of the two that we're going to be working on mostly in class. Is you're either going to be expressing your opinion or you're going to be doing some sort of literature analysis. But you need to make sure that you're answering the question fully in one sentence. For instance, like if we were doing a literature analysis one, you would say something like the author of blank title uses blank and blank, like foreshadowing and personification or imagery and diction to help the reader understand the theme of, and then that's how you would go from there. One sentence is all you want. You don't want a big introduction. You don't want any fluff. Just one section, one sentence, answer what you were asked in the prompt. After that, you then need to start incorporating some analysis. And before you give a quote or a paraphrase, you want to kind of prep it. So usually when I'm prepping my evidence, I usually want to give the author and the title of the work. And I want to say something like, the title or the author of this article in the Washington Post said, and then I've transitioned in. You don't want to just drop in your quotes without context. Then you can quote or paraphrase. Paraphrase means that you're putting it in your own words. But with both of those, either paraphrases or quotes, you have to include an in-text citation so that we know the source where you got it. But you always want to make sure that you have more than one piece of evidence. Like I said at the beginning, we want to do PEAEA. That's always better than just PEA. So 2 pieces of evidence is probably your bare minimum when you're doing these sort of paragraphs. So here on this slide, we have 2 examples. So over here, we have a quote. So this says, his definition in the article, everybody is ignorant, only different subject, is perfect. And then I have my quote. So you see how I led into that. And then I have my quote, and then I have my in-text citation right here, which is the author's last name and the page number. And you'll notice that I moved the punctuation mark from right here to right here because this is the end of the sentence. Over here, I have my paraphrase. It says the Ash conformity study is another great example where Solomon Ash studied a group to see if one person would conform to the majority when the majority agreed. So I'm putting that in my own words. This one only has the author's last name because there was no page numbers. This was actually from a video. And I put the punctuation at the end because that's the end of the sentence. So it doesn't matter whether you're paraphrasing or quoting, you have to have that in-text citation. And then on this slide, I have a collection of like evidence sentence starters. So these are things that you could like lead in to a quote. You could use these, a quote or a paraphrase. So you could say like, for example, or in author's last name article entitled, he or she explains, or the text states, things like that. These are all great sentence starters, and I would totally use them. So then we go to analysis. After we give evidence, we always want to analyze that evidence. And analysis is just a fancy word of explaining how this connects back up to your point. So if you're doing a lit analysis thing, you're going to discuss, let's say, how the imagery that we just showed in our quote or a paraphrase helps us to understand that theme. How does it show us the theme that we're trying to get across? Or if it's your opinion, you're just going to discuss how the evidence you just gave, goes back up to your opinion and whether you agree or disagree with the topic, whatever it is. Analysis always means original thought, though. You're not repeating your point. You're not summarizing what you just gave us in your evidence. You're giving us original thought and you're connecting it back up to your point, right? The very first sentence. You're making connections. And then, like I said earlier, you want to do PEA. So you'll have your point, an evidence, analysis, another piece of an evidence, and another analysis of that evidence. And this last one has some analysis sentence starters. So after you do your evidence, you have your in-text citation, you could start using some of these. So like you could say this implies, or this quote suggests, this persuades us to. All of these are really good, and it's better than just this quote says. That's a really poor transition into analysis. All right, so hopefully that helps, and you can always watch this video whenever you're writing your PEAs.